Wasn't that a fascinating song? Isn't he amazing? Let's give it up for Robert. Woo! Yes, you are amazing. How big is your we, by the way? That's the talk title today. Isn't that awesome? And he kind of stole my thunder a little bit. You know, I was telling people as I was hugging them coming in, I love the weather because it makes me frisky. And I was having a little conversation up front with some of the teens and folks, and I said, you know, I'm feeling frisky today. I'm going on the edge of inappropriate. I don't know if I should pull myself back or not. What do you think? And they said, go with it. Just go with it. So, so basically, I'm going with it. So basically, yeah, it is how big is your we, not how big is your wee. So just, guys, no need to be sensitive there or anything. No, we're basically coming together right now, looking at welcoming and embracing everyone in our community. And how big is our we? How big is our community? That's a good question, I think, to ask any time, but especially this time, right here in December, this time of giving, this time of seeing holiness everywhere we go, with everywhere we meet. How big is our community? You know, when we shift our conscious awareness to embrace all, we kind of start operating life as a we as one approach. And as we talked about last month with gratitude and thanksgiving, wonderful shifts occur in your life when that takes place. You know, here in this teaching and here at the center, we teach oneness. We teach unity, that we are all connected. So how does this teaching show up and operate in your life? You know, the bridge between our souls coming together as one being, I believe, is unconditional love. I have found that to be true through every experience, every walk of life, every challenge I have ever had. That bridge is unconditional love. And so, Eric, if we could go to slide 2. You know, we are bringing our conscious awareness to celebrate the transition of a really great leader this week. And that would be Nelson Mandela. And I loved seeing all of the different posts on Facebook and the sharings through emails, and I loved getting to bring in some richness in my life this week, looking at the different things that Nelson was successful in creating through his life. And so in honor of him, and because it goes with our talk title today, we're going to begin with sharing one of his quotes that's up there on the slide. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. That bridge to oneness, unconditional love. So I know that a lack of love breeds hate. And I know that it's generally because there's a pain in being in fear. You know, when people are in fear and operate their lives from fear, they experience pain. There's painfulness that comes from that. And painfulness brings about this idea of separation that is the exact opposite of oneness, the exact opposite of unity. And that breeds hate. Yet it can be undone in the blink of an eye. And the flip of a switch, because unconditional love is really all there is. And once we remove that barrier, once we allow that light in just for a split second, it can dissolve that sense of separation that really pulls the feeling of hatred. And so Nelson was wonderful in stating that. So how big is your we? You know, Chief Seattle in 1854 says, humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves, and all things are bound together. All things connect. I have a theory. As our perception grows, our perception of life as we know it, our perception as the divine within us grows, so does our understanding and our ability to accept. And then, some people talk about tolerance, about teaching tolerance. Well, I don't teach tolerance. I teach love. And so I believe that as we expand our perception of all that is and all that we really are, we bring about this experience of love, this bridge to oneness. And so I want to share with you a little story. This past January, I traveled back to my roots, back home to Kentucky, because we had, within 2 days, 2 deaths in our family. And so I traveled back and took my grandmother so that we could attend the services. And we were staying with my great Aunt May. My Aunt May is my grandmother's youngest sister. And as all of my wonderful expanded family there in Kentucky, they're beautiful souls. They're very loving. They're very giving. They're all farmers. Well, Aunt May has been a farmer all of her life and a banker, and she retired from the banking industry after like 35 years there. But they're just really loving, rich, salt of the earth kind of folk. And bless them, they live in this small town. And this is kind of like what I was saying before with my feeling about this. When we expand our perception, when we grow in our knowledge and understanding of the world, I believe that our ability to understand grows, understand people. That there aren't people out there just like us. There aren't people out there that believe just like we believe, or do things the same way we do when we get out of bed in the morning, or when we go to bed at night. There's a lot of differences out there, and our ability to love those differences comes from, I believe, a greater understanding and awareness and knowledge of that. And so that's where I'm going with the difference between tolerance and love. And so what I'm telling you about going back home is, one night Aunt May and I were up, we were making biscuits actually for the next morning because we had a lot of people to feed. And we were up making biscuits, and she just wanted to talk. She said, I got a question for you. It's been hanging on my heart, and I really want to get your input on this. She said, when there's a big disaster somewhere in the world, and a lot of people pass away, a lot of people die, including, children and babies, and they haven't had the opportunity to know and accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, how do you deal with the knowledge that they go to hell? And so I was very happy that she was actually opening up and asking me these questions. And I said, well, Aunt May, I don't believe that, actually. I said, I believe as Jesus taught, that everything is done unto us as we believe. And so I said, and so she said, well, I don't know what you mean. I can't accept that. And I said, really? I said, give me a moment. Give me a moment of your time. Open your mind, open your heart. If the world were a village of 100 people, Christianity only makes up 33 of those people. Are you telling me that the other amount of people are automatically, are signed up to go the other way that you teach, to be in hell forever, ever? And she said, well, that is what we learn in church. And I said, but do you believe that in your heart? Do you honestly believe that? And she said, well, it's very difficult for me to accept. And I said, do you think that what we have is our creation here and our walk and our ability to love and to reach out and to connect with people, do you believe that was given to us only for a small few? Do you really think that there's other people that walk this earth and this planet that are not connected to the divine? And she said, no, I don't believe that. So we got to go into this wonderful conversation about that. And it heartened me. It opened my heart, and I rejoiced at the fact that she was entering a conversation with me about that. Because in this small town where that's all they know, and that's all they teach, that's all they can understand. Yet I have realized that for those of us that through books or through travel or through getting to meet people from different walks of life, we realize and recognize there's a whole world out there full of beautiful, amazing, divine beings of light that are living their life in many different ways that are different than mine. But it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm me and they're them and I have to be for or against them. It doesn't mean that at all. And so I don't teach tolerance. I teach love. So I invited Aunt May to touch in with her feelings of love, her love for mankind, her love for her brother, her love for her sister, her love for her neighbor. And I brought that out, and I went from the 10-foot level to the 30,000-foot level and just kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. And she really got it. And I believe in that moment, she learned that maybe everything that she had been taught since the time she was a little girl going to a Southern Baptist church every single Sunday, that maybe there was something more to that. And that's all that we can ask for, isn't it? In this very moment, if everything that I was brought into this earth knowing already in my heart and soul was all there ever was, where do we go from there? So I am inviting us to look at the question, how big is our we? How big is my we? How much more is there out there for me to grow into, for me to learn about and understand and become more alive in my ability to be and give of the divine nature that I know is within me? I'm interested in looking at that. So I invite us to fall into the truth that we are. So I think that when we look at how big our we is, we first have to define who we are. It all has to start and come from who we are. You know, there was this incredible saying by Black Elk of the Sioux tribe. He was a spiritual leader, and he said, true peace, the first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship with their oneness, with the universe and all of its powers. And when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that this center is really everywhere, it is within each of us. This is the real peace, and the others are but a reflection of this. The second piece is that which is made between two individuals, and the third is that which is made between two nations. But above all, you should understand that there can never be peace between nations until there is known true peace within the souls of men. This is what he said back in the early 1900s. He shared this thought. And so I am inviting us to fall into the truth that we are. Allow your life to live you, for we are God's. We are made up of DNA, and DNA also stands for divine natural authority. There's a part in you that knows who you are, and there is something in you that sees who you are. So allow yourself to be lived. Surrender. There is something that is not only the you that you believe you to be, but there is a you far bigger than the you that you have come to know as of this moment. And I invite you to surrender to that you, to love you and to be you and to get out of your own way. Because the suffering that we experience is what causes the pain, that causes the feeling of separation, which causes the hate. Do you see where I'm going? And if we get out of our own way, you know, we know the truth. We know it. We know it. We come every Sunday and we hear about it and we go to classes and we teach oneness and we teach unity. It's right here in our hearts. And so when we can get out of our own way and go feel that divine and touch into it, it allows that sense of separation to dissolve, which then we can start defining how big is our we. For we are not meant to suffer. We are not meant to suffer here. Suffering is man-made. Bliss is spirit-led. The root of suffering is the clinging of the mind to things which separate one from it all. When that separation happens, there is incredible pain and some profound way where all of our actions henceforth are an attempt to return back to the one. And so I want to bring into a story that Wayne Dyer actually focused and brought up this woman, introduced this woman in his last lecture series, Wishes Fulfilled. And her name is Anita Moorjani. And if you've heard of Anita, she wrote a book because she had an amazing death experience. I'm not even going to call it a near-death experience because she really did die. And she came back. And her entire life changed. And she proved some profound things from this experience. And so Anita was in the end stage of lymphoma cancer. She'd had it for 4 years. It started with a lump in her neck. She had tumors the size of lemons at the base of her skull, around her neck, her chest, her arms, her abdomen. She went into the hospital on the day that she died, and the doctors told her family members it was a matter of minutes, and she was going to transition. She was going to die. She was 85 pounds when she did that. She had skin lesions all over herself. She couldn't breathe without being on a ventilator. She couldn't walk. She went into a coma. She was dying. Her organs started shutting down. And on February the 2nd, 2006, when her organs were failing, her family were gathered around her, and she died. Now, what she experienced was something different than what everybody else experienced. When she left her ailing body, her consciousness and her spirit stayed in awareness. And she was opened up to a great knowing, that teaching that we teach here. And she came to fully realize and understand something that changed her life and is changing the lives of many, many people all over this world. She learned that she was killing herself. She had created her cancer because she didn't love herself. She didn't accept herself. And she learned when she died and became aware of everything that was there to be known and seen, she realized it. She's like, oh my God, it really is all about love. It starts with me, and we're all connected. So as I'm loving myself, I'm loving others. And she got all this amazing clarity. She understood. She said, I fully understood that all of us are greater and more powerful than we will ever be able to realize walking in this physical plane that we're walking. She felt she was connected to everyone. She said, we all share the same consciousness. So now that she knew the truth, she was told in her intuitive, powerful wisdom soul that it wasn't her time yet. So she went back into her body. She was told to go back and live fearlessly now because she knows this truth beyond a shadow of a doubt. In 5 days, her tumors had shrunk by 70%. After 5 weeks, she was completely cancer-free. There were experts from all over the world that got together in rooms trying to figure out where her cancer had gone. She was completely healed and walked out of that hospital in 5 weeks because she got to realize the truth of her being. Changed her world, changed her life. And so she gave a little metaphor in her lecture series about what had happened to her. She said, imagine you have a flashlight, and you have this beam of flashlight, and you're in this really big warehouse, and there's no light in there. You can't see anything. It's pitch black. And you've got this little flashlight, so everything that you beam the little flashlight light on, you can see, but you can't see anything else. And you go about doing that for a really long time, and you can see just what you put your flashlight on. And then all of a sudden, somebody turns on the floodlights, and you see everything. And you realize this warehouse was far bigger than you ever could have imagined. It went on for miles and miles and miles with lots of shelves full of all kinds of stuff that you never even knew existed. And you're taking it all in. And then the lights go out, and you've got your flashlight again. Yet this time, while you're beaming that light at the different things, you know there's other stuff there. You are already aware of it. She said that's what her experience was. The lights were turned on for her, and she got to see everything. And now in her body again, she's got her flashlight, and she's pointing it at things, but she knows that all the other stuff is there. And so she's living her life based on that knowing, based on the knowing that it truly is all about love. It's about loving herself and therefore loving others, and that we all share the same conscious mind. We all are connected. And so she lives her life based on that premise. Imagine how powerful her life is right now. Just as powerful as our lives are right now, because we are living this truth as well. And so I'm going to give you a little experiment. Look around the room right now and try to find everything that you can that are in shades of green. Try to remember everything that's a shade of green. Just look around, think about it for a minute, maybe count how many shades of green things you see. Now I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and bring to mind anything that's red. Can you bring anything that's red to your mind? Probably not much, because you were focusing on the green, right?
Mara's pretty lipstick.
Yeah, good. Mara's pretty lipstick. I love it. You go, girl. So back to that beam of flashlight, though. You know, that's our awareness. That's a metaphor. The beam of the flashlight is our beam of awareness, and where we're guiding and directing that flashlight is what we can see. Yet we do know, don't we? We do know that there's so much else out there that we may not be putting our focus and awareness on right now, but it's there. It's there, and we're connected to it. So she shared with everyone, she learned 5 big lessons. And I'm going to pass those on to you today. Number 1, the most important one was for her, she said it's all about love. I know we say that all the time. There's probably not a service that goes by that no matter who's up here talking says, you know what, folks, it's all about love. Well, guess what? It really is. It's the beautiful song that Robert wrote and said, you know, we're all connected. It's all about we unless it's them. Well, where does the them come into play? If it's all about love, there is no them, is there? So what are the conditions? What are the situations that may come up for us in our life that we, by the way, are choosing and guiding and directing with our little flashlight? What are those situations that bring up a situation that causes a them, that causes a they? She says, number 1, the most important focus of our awareness is love. So there is no them, ever. One of the reasons she said she got cancer is because she didn't love herself. And that we need to love ourselves and treat others to teach others how to treat ourselves, how to treat us. She says you no longer have to control, you no longer have to bully people, and you don't have to let them do anything to you that you don't want them to do to you. Number 2, live life fearlessly. That was the distinct message she got when she knew she needed to go back into her body, is she said, now it's time for me to live life fearlessly. She says, most of us are brought up on a diet of fear. And what did I say earlier at the beginning of the talk? You know, fear breeds sense of separation, breeds hate. But we know we can unlearn that. Fear is forgetting everything is all right. Everything is all right. Even when things don't look all right or feel all right, it's all right. It really is, because those things are being manifested. The universe supports us in every way, and it's being manifested in our life to shine our flashlight. You know, when things come up that don't feel so great, it's because it's wanting our flashlight on us. It's wanting our attention. There's something there that's deep and rich, that's desiring to be made known through us, that's going to allow us this greater stepping into the greatness that we are. She says, most people believe fear keeps them safe, but that's not true. She says, love keeps us safe. Number 3, humor, laughter, and joy. She said, we are born knowing that it's most important to laugh, because that's what kids do all the time. She says, finding your joy in life is more important than any other spiritual practice. Now, that's a lot for me to say, standing up here as the minister of this center, but I believe in it. She died and became one with the infinite intelligence. We already are, right? But, you know, we have the little flashlight. She got the whole floodlight of the warehouse turned on, and she found out laughter and joy is where it's at, y'all. That's where it's at. Laughter and joy. It's like, let's just dissolve this idea that any time that we want to laugh and we want to lift someone up, and gaiety and frivolity and rejoicing and fun, there's never a time where that's inappropriate. I mean, come on. I mean, maybe, you know, like maybe if you're at a service, I mean, there's laughter appropriate there too. I remember my grandfather, you know, the person most important in my life, always said he wanted a celebration at his service. And I made sure that happened. But that's really what it's about. She says that is the most important spiritual practice we can do, is laughter and joy. She said if we had more laughter, we'd have less hospitals. We'd have less prisons. Isn't that something? And there's I want to throw a funny story in here since it's all about laughter. Earlier this week, when it started getting really cold, one night, it was actually in the morning, and one morning, Tony and I heard this loud noise coming from downstairs in the crawl space, and that's where our furnace is. And I thought, oh, honey, the furnace is making noise. Something's up, we need to go check this out. So we got down there, and before I went down there, I said, well, let me turn it off. Let me turn the furnace off because it's making this loud noise, and we're going to go tinker with it. So I know to turn things off before you go tinkering with it. So we go down there, and we realized it wasn't the furnace at all. It was this pump. It was a pump that pumped the condensate water up and out of the house through this little hole. And I don't see Linda out here. It's a shame Linda's not here this morning because on the move day, Linda Iverson was outside and saw it. And it's really funny because it looks like the house is peeing. There's this little hole on the side of the house, and this perfect stream comes out of the house, and it looks just like the house is peeing. It's hilarious. And she was like, oh my gosh, your house is peeing. It was amazing. And I said, oh, we can't worry about that right now. We're moving. So we figure out it's the pump. And we could unplug the pump, but I'm like, no, I don't want to unplug the pump. Pump's on red light, autumn, warning, warning, danger, danger, something's not working right. And it was running hard. And I said, you know what? This tube is connected to outside. I bet it froze. I bet it's clogged and froze up. So we went up, and he got a wire hanger and dug it out. And sure enough, the house peed for a good long time, and the pump went away, and we were good to go. So later that night, I'm working in my office, Tony's working in his office, and I'm starting to get a little chilly. And I'm like, oh, it must be getting really cold outside because I'm finally starting to feel chilly. And I'm sitting there working, and I'm like, I'm starting to get really cold. I need to turn that furnace up. And then it dawned on me, I never turned the furnace back on. I think that's hilarious. I just laughed and laughed and laughed. I said, I never turned the furnace back on from that morning when we went down to the basement. So I'm very happy at how well our place is insulated because we didn't get cold all day long. It was great. Number 4 lesson that she gave is life is a gift. She says most of us live our lives as if it were a chore. You know what I mean? Have you been there? Day in, day out, just like the commercial, getting up super early, gotta make the donuts or whatever the guy says in the commercial, like it's a chore. Only when we lose something of value, she says, do we realize its true value. Don't realize when it's too late the value of your life. Your challenges are a gift as well. She said she was killing herself before she got cancer. The cancer saved her life. She really quickly, when she came back, changed her attitude and perception of what the medical community always says, the battle against this and the war against this, and we've got to fight this. That she was fighting and warring against and battling against, she said saved her life. It was her perception and perspective of her life that was killing her. She said the cancer is the flashlight beam. It pointed at what she needed to bring her attention to. Number 5, most important thing for you is to always be yourself. Be as you can be, shine your light as bright as you can, and get to know who you are and love yourself unconditionally. Ram Dass says, when you see the beloved all around you, everyone is family and everywhere is love. We are all affecting the world every moment. Our actions and states of mind matter because we are so deeply interconnected with one another. So now what happens when we know this and live from that place of knowing? Okay? So we know all about loving ourselves, accepting ourselves. We're on top of that. So how big is our we now? Let me give you a very powerful example of what happens when we know this and live from this. Excuse me. Community. In 1995, a 12-year-old by the name of Craig saw an article in the newspaper that his dad was reading at the breakfast table, and it was an article about child labor. And until that moment, he had no idea that anything like that existed. The article was talking about a boy his exact age that was being forced to work in child labor in another country. He was flabbergasted. He's like, I had no idea that this kind of thing went on. Let me find out more about it. So he did some research. He was very passionate about the fact that he knew within himself, he knew that there was just something not inherently right about that. He wanted every 12-year-old boy, and every child for that matter, to have the same opportunities that he had had. He couldn't believe child labor existed. So he got really educated on this, and actually at 12 years old went to our nation's capital, and actually spoke to Congress people about this, and started getting a movement together. Now, I want to share with you how powerful this connection that he has with oneness and has created within the greater global community that he calls his we has been created. There's this thing called We Day that, because of that, reading that newspaper article back when he was 12 years old, it was created by that. He created a foundation called Free the Children. It's huge. It's been going on for years. And a part of that is We Day. Now, I got to take 13 teens to We Day this year. This year was the first time We Day was in the United States, and it was in Seattle. And you can't buy a ticket to We Day, you get invited, because teens, youth who are making a difference in the world, and organizations that are teaching that we can make a difference in the world and that we all count and that we all matter, you get invited to go to this thing. So I want to give you a little snippet of what that looks like.
Born out of a dream, two brothers, fueled by the desire for change, by the hope that the world can be a better place. They called it We Day.
Born out of a dream, a call that brings a generation together for all issues young people care about.
More than an event, it launches a year of actions for social change.
You can't buy a ticket to We Day.
You earn it through service.
Tens of thousands in attendance.
Hundreds of thousands watching online.
Millions watching on TV. Born out of a dream.
For us to be better.
For the world.
I've never experienced anything like this before.
We Day has changed my life. I'm so impacted. I can't even describe to you. I'm so excited to get started.
We Day, are you ready to change the world?
That was amazing. I can tell you it was amazing to go there and experience that. We were in an arena that size, and all of those thousands and thousands of teens got to hear this message over and over again, and most of the messages were being delivered by teens, their same age. This is how big their we is. It's really incredible. As Nelson Mandela says, our human compassion binds us the one to the other, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. And that's really what it's about, isn't it? We love ourselves. We get in tune with the divine nature that we are. We shine our flashlight. We pay attention to what's coming up in our lives. We pay attention to what's feeling like it's painful, what's feeling like it's suffering, what is in it for us to grow and understand and evolve from. And then we expand our we. Then we get together in capacities like we just watched. There was a message that kept going over and over and over again, wasn't it? From every single person that they highlighted there. We are all one. We are all connected. Once we realize this and come together and live passionate, empowering, incredible lives, things are going on, and they're big time. Things are going on here, and it's big time. And this is the message for this morning. How big is your we? One of the sharing at We Day in Seattle in March this year, there was a teenage boy. His name was Michael Chikawani. And I want to share his story real quick. 5 years old in South Africa, walking back to his village with his best friend Kevin, he was captured by rebel soldiers. They were thrown into a truck, and they were going to be made to fight in the big rebel soldier army that is out there right now, thousands and thousands of teenagers that are captured every single day. As you can tell, Michael was there to share it with all of us, so he got away. And he's sharing his story to make a difference for every single one of those teens that was in the room, because his message was extremely powerful. He said that what they did was they blindfold you, and as a part of their initiation, they cut your wrist, and then they put in there a mixture of cocaine and gunpowder to try to make you crazy. And then blindfolded, they stuck guns into their hands. They're 5 years old. He said he couldn't hold it up. It dropped to the ground. And these men were yelling at him and forcing him to hold up this gun, and they kept saying, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. So finally he shot it. Then they took the blindfold off, and standing and laying on the ground in front of him was his best friend Kevin, whom he had been forced to kill. And that's how they initiate the kids into the Army. Now that's a horrible, gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching story. I'm not sharing it with you in this moment for you to feel pain or suffering. Michael shared it from the stage to all those thousands of teenagers in Seattle to make a point. His point was, there is a divine spark within each and every one of us. He said that he connected with that divine spark and would not let them get the best of him. He knew the truth of his being, regardless of what they were doing to him or making him do. And he knew that he had the power to get away because it wasn't his truth. He said, if you are experiencing bullying, if someone is trying to control you, if you are trying to be made led that you are less than the incredible, amazing spirit that you are, he says, no matter what your circumstances, go to that truth and knowledge of who you are. That was a pretty powerful message for all those teenagers to hear. Bullying is a pretty big deal right now. And we're shining that flashlight on it right now so that we can eliminate it. I believe, like I shared at the beginning of the talk, with the little central town in Kentucky, what we can conceive of and understand makes a difference on how much we learn, how much we can grow. It's not about tolerating, it's about loving. How much we can connect with people and love them and make the world a better place. It's all about information. It's about understanding. And so what does moving from me to we look like? On a community scale, on a global scale? Awakening the spiritual magnificence that's within humanity at all time, that is you and that is me, and then creating a world that works for everyone. What does that look like? Got another short clip to show you, the Me to We video. I had to share that video because it was the perfect summarization of the talk this morning. Me to we. That is what the message is all about. Touching in with the divine self. Looking at what your flashlight beam is pointing to. Having yourself hold yourself in laughter and joy. Knowing it's all about love. Live fearlessly. Reach out and connect. Recognize that we are all connected and we all share the same consciousness. And then from all of that knowledge comes wisdom, comes power, comes being able to make decisions that cause an incredible change for the better within our community and on a global scale as well. And so how big is your we? From the time you got here today, is your we bigger? Have you expanded in the growth and the knowledge of how you make a difference, what you're impacting in every moment, with every breath, with every decision that you make? Our we automatically becomes all-inclusive when we open up to the spiritual truth of our being and live from there. And there's another piece that comes from that, and that's recognizing that everything is holy. Everything is of the divine, for we are connected to it all. Everything is holy. And so I want to close this morning, if you'll go with me here, if everybody will stand up. You know, we started out the service with this idea of what's being taught can sometimes be a limited teaching, can kind of leave us with a limited idea when there's a whole big world out there with lots of ideas, and our ability to love, not tolerate, love becomes expanded when we step into this greater knowledge and awareness of that. And so there is a beautiful song that was written based on this concept. Some of you may know it, some of you may not, but I've got it on the PowerPoint, and I want us all to sing it together because everything is holy now. Eric? Take it in. I invite you to feel this. So knowing together that there is only one light, one love, one divine presence, one infinite intelligence, and one unconditional love that permeates and comes from and is resourced through each and every one of us. This unconditional love is the bridge to connectedness, is the bridge to oneness, is the bridge to unity. And as a child in child consciousness, miracles were few and far between. And there was this moment where we had to go to church for the priest to consecrate the bread and to do the prayer. Now we know that everything's a miracle and everything is holy. Now we know that the prayer is inside us. And the answer to the prayer is inside of us. And so I know that we open in our hearts and our great awareness and our mind, we open up to that which the flashlight beam is pointing on. We give thanks. We hold gratitude. We send out an incredible amount of unconditional love and compassion to those who may not be aware yet. We send love to those rebel soldiers, knowing that there is just pain and fear, knowing that when there's one spark of light that is able to enter their hearts, that love finds the way. And I know that that is possible. I know the possibility of taking in and recognizing and realizing that love is all there is completely dissolves and diminishes multiple tumors and a cancer diagnosis and allows a woman to walk cancer-free out of a hospital. I know that there is no condition that cannot be undone by love and understanding and compassion. I know that we are strong and powerful as a united community. I know there are great things. There are great things left for us to step into, to rise up, to be a great revealer and a great reflection of the divinity that we have within ourselves. And I know that we are fully and completely supported every single step of the way. I allow it to be. I am grateful for the holiness that is now and forever will be. And for this, I say, and so it is.